Hello, this is the Intellijel Metropolis. Years ago on General Internet Travels for Badass Synth Shit on YouTube, I came across this video. Let's all just take this in for a sec, shall we? This seems to show a new type of sequencer, or an old sequencer for the System 100M. The guy seems to be adjusting these switches. I don't know what he's doing. All I know is it sounds completely badass and electro. I want it. But on further research, it turns out this isn't actually an old sequencer at all. This is a completely new sequencer. It's been developed by this guy called Rick Tink. So, where did this come from? So I asked him. When I was a kid, I had a Saturday job working in a synth guitar amp repair company. I saved up for a 4-track and I occasionally borrowed an MS-20 and a Juno 106 from a neighbour. I built a few magazine synth projects and spent a lot of time drooling over the Roland 1985 catalogue featuring the System 100M. Didn't we all? Of course, I could never afford these things when I was a kid. Years later, as an adult, I finally bought an old Roland 100M system and fooled around with the idea of adding some new modules. So Rick goes to Beijing for work in 2008 and during a day off visits one of the vast shopping centres for electronic components they have there. In his own words, I was amazed to find a bag of 8-way slide switches, which had exactly the same kind of chunky retro feel as Roland switches. Such a switch is unheard of in the West. 4-stage switches are pushing the boundaries over here, let alone 8-way ones. I always got really bored of the 1970s style repetitive analog sequencer lines, such as Tangerine Dream, and wanted to use one to make more complex rhythmic patterns instead. There was this really great video of YMO using the skip function on the Moog sequencer that got me to thinking about the multi-step idea. I built a clone of the M182 and I got disillusioned by the repetitive play every note syndrome of this style sequencer, which made me want to develop the multi-step idea. I suddenly got the idea of making an analog sequencer that used an 8-way switch to control the step repeats. Thanks, Rick. And so we're led to this. Unfortunately, this is just a picture on a page, and I don't have a System 100M anyway. Help me, someone. Help. Cut to now, and Mr. Daniel Van Tine signs a deal with Rick, licensing the M185 concept and putting it into a new module called the Metropolis. So let's play. Your traditional 8-step sequencer. Kinda does that 8-step sequencing thing. But here we have gate mode. And this means for each stage we can change the behaviour. And there's an associated count, which is the pulse count above it. So here, I've basically just got them repeating. But if I want to, I can stick that up to 8. And what it's doing here is it's counting 8 pulses. And the gate mode I've currently got selected is one that will play a single note and then count the rest. So it's playing a note and it's counting 7. I can do it with 4. And I can do these 2. But I've got 3 other gate modes. One is a kind of hold. One is a repeat for the associated count time. Let me reset this. And now let's just... If I put the repeat on, it just counts the associated amount at that stage. Or it'll just be quiet for the same count. And we can slide. And it's got a very 303 slide. Or we can skip by double tapping. And that's pretty much it. But within those settings, there is just a world of difference and a world of variability, and it's all massively hands-on. So you can just mess around to your heart's content. You have scales, which we can change. You have other things. You can change the amount of stages. 4, 5, up to 8 and beyond. So it will play up to 8 and then it will go up to 11 and it will reset. That will count 13 and then reset. You can change the root note. BPM count. We can introduce swing. We can have it respond to internal or external clocks. It passes through a clock here and we can divide that clock with an amount here. So I can send a slower divided down version of the master clock through this device. Modes, reverse, we have forward, ping pong, Brownian, which is a kind of 50-50 decision that gets made each time it hits a stage, and random. We do also have 2 aux inputs, and those allow us to stick voltages in, which can control the changing of root note, stage time, transpose, things like this. I think Metropolis is best described by just messing around with it, because I think you need to actually just see how these things work together. There's a reason why it's called Metropolis. It is the spirit of electro and Detroit. And with a few basic little switches, you can really change the feel. We have a gate time dial, by the way. I've got it going to a mass. Just the input. It's very cool. Ace.